Hi, everyone. How are you today? Hi, people of the world. I don't know if it's in the morning, it's in the evening, in the afternoon. So, my name is Nathalie. I'm from Les Grands Créateurs. And today I have a special guest for you. I'm really, really happy to have him with us. I hope you will enjoy. I'm sure you will enjoy this interview. I just want you to know that this interview, I'm doing it for Glorious and Free movement. That's it. Hi, everybody in the Glorious and Free movement. So I want to read you his bio, and then I'm going to introduce him to you. So here we go. So his name is Joyful Joy, and he is an emotional healing practitioner, an educator who focuses on harnessing our body's natural ability to self-heal and regenerate so we can rediscover our destiny to thrive. Joey has explored the integration of these empowering emotions for the last decade and has helped others to permanently resolve a wide range of emotions, general anxiety and fears, deeply rooted phobias, and the everyday little emotions that unknowingly steal our energy and negatively impact our relationships. He has been formally trained in emotional resolution, shiatsu massage, coactive life coaching, various forms of meditation, and has his bachelor's degree in contemplative psychology with dual concentrations in health and healing and somatic psychology. He believes that self-empowerment is innate, contentment is our emotional foundation, and sovereignty is our birthright. Joseph's life's work is to continually evolve himself and support others in elevating their own unique journey. Wow. So without further ado, I'm introducing you, Joey. Can you?
Hi, everybody. Gotta remember to
Hi,
unmute.
Joey. So I'm so happy to have you today on my show. Everybody will love the discussion we will have because, you know, guys, Joey and me I've had little discussions on the phone and a little bit of a chit chat just before the interview. And it's a really good, I have a good feeling, and this will be very fun. And I also have visited his website, which is infinite self
Self.com.
infinite-self.com. I'll put the link on the description of the video, so
Great.
all of you viewers, guests, will have the chance to see my guest's website and all that he is offering. So, Joey, I'm in Canada and you are in Colorado.
Correct. Yeah, I'm in Colorado, USA here.
Yes. So, you want to talk a bit about yourself? Like, were you born and raised in Colorado? And a big family, a small family? How was it when you were young? And let's talk a little bit about this to get to know you.
Yeah, totally. So I'm originally from Southern California. I lived there for most of my childhood, I guess. I moved out of Southern California when I was, let's say, 2011. So I was like 23, I think. So I've been in Colorado for the last 11 years. In terms of my family systems, um, half of me is European Caucasian, and half of me is Hispanic Puerto Rican, Mexican. So I've kind of got like two family styles. My parents were divorced when I was around 2 years old, so I've always kind of had a split family, so to speak. So I lived primarily with my mom and saw my dad on the weekends and so forth. But in terms of larger family and gatherings, it was always on the Hispanic side. So we have a big family. Everything is very touchy lovey, right? Like you give kisses on the cheeks. There's always hugs happening all the time. Even just like speaking with people, hands over the shoulders. Like it's very, very touch oriented. On the white side, it's not as much. So I've always kind of seen those different styles of love and communication, I guess. Not that one is better than the other, but you know that they're part of who we are. And it really informed me in the way in which our culture also has these different love languages of touch or lack thereof. So that's part of my research as well, is into the healing powers of touch, the healing powers of emotional connectivity, and how we can kind of harness that for ourselves to find our own the way in which serves us as an individual, not necessarily always connected to the way in which our families chose to do those styles, but seeing what helps us best as an individual.
Yes, of course. And do you find it when you have such a difference in the family that it gives you more of a chance to learn about something that are very maybe not that opposite, that opposite, but you know you have a wider range of what's happening in life, and after you can, when you meet the people in your practice, you can understand more. Is it like what you are thinking about? When do you think about this, or do you apply this in your life, like the yin and yang? I'm thinking about the yin and yang now.
Yeah, completely. I think there's we all have different upbringings, and the more I learn about how emotions are constructed within us on a biological level, and also how we can learn to self heal those, that a lot of that is built at the youngest years of our lives. Not only like from the point of conception and what the time in the womb, as well as especially the first 5 to 6 years. We're literally in a biological state of absorption in terms of physical sensations from our environment. So there's many things that are part of us now as adults that are actually that are rooted in the earliest years of our lives. And so there's very interesting ways in which those can play out in emotional triggers that we experience as adults today, that are tied to how our family unit was in our youngest years, and how that can kind of impression us in a way. And the way in which it's very different for the work that I do. And I know in a lot of talk therapy, it's really about, you know, talking about those earliest years of our lives and trying to understand them and trying to build new mental models around how they served us or didn't, and how we can transform that. Um, but I take it a little bit differently, is that we don't necessarily really need to know where it came from. We don't need to know what year or how it happened or why it happened or what the exact trauma was, or where this emotion stems from. It's really about today in our lives. What emotions are we experiencing that are no longer serving us, or we see are detrimental in some way, or we wish maybe we're having certain behavior patterns that we want to be able to shift. Oftentimes underneath that, there's these emotional triggers that are running our life without us realizing it, and that's where we can begin to do the work. Is today, now we're experiencing some type of emotion that's not serving us any longer, and then we can begin to address that and self heal that on our own or with the help of a practitioner, and then allow that to change our life going forward. We're essentially changing our future by addressing what's happening in the present, that underneath the current is actually relating to our past, but we don't have to go back there and dive into all that stuff necessarily.
Thank you. Yes, because we have this tendency of, I want to know why. But like you say, it's not really the why, it's more the how you feel right now about what's happening now. And then what can I do with this? What can I bring it to maybe a more convenient way for you, for us to continue our life, but still living those emotions. And if we always searching for why, I think we will search for all our lives, right?
Yeah.
So that, I don't know, maybe it's why we have to stop always searching for why, but stay in the now. And I really like it. I have
Yeah.
a question about how brought you to just how how comes you are like now as a practitioner? Because I like to know how was your path? Like, why did you turn a practitioner? You have so many skills. I mean, it's like wow, emotional resolution, shitsu massage, like it's a life coach. So, but now you're concentrating on one certain not topic, but a certain work. So what is a little bit of your path, like where, like because you have so many skills, and what brought you to where you are right now? Can we have this little story? I know
Yeah,
a bit of it, but for the viewers.
totally. Yeah, I think that's super important. Let me address that last part you said right there about the why. I think that's really important. Is that oftentimes uh, in psychology and talk therapy and all these ways that we've been trying to help people to do this type of healing is we want to go to the why. And as a person, we want to understand the why. But like you're saying, it's about that present moment. It's more direct that when we're experiencing these emotions now, today in our life, we directly have access to these traumas from the past now, currently. And so that brings the importance of why the present moment is so important. We have the smart human mind that constantly puts us in the future and it constantly
Mhm.
puts us in the past, and we keep evading the present moment. And so that's what this work helps us to do, is to begin to be conscious of these emotions that we're experiencing presently in our life, whether they're positive emotions or negative emotions, it doesn't matter. It's about being attentive and aware and surrendering to these feelings and allowing the body to process that information. And what I find is that when people become more able to do that, what they gain is they gain a deeper understanding that comes from within. It almost unearths from within them about maybe some of these whys, where these connections are to our past, without me as a practitioner having to make these connections for them or tell them how to live their life. It kind of just comes naturally up. And so you almost get the answer to your own whys without going to the past, but by simply accessing them today. And so, what's brought me to this point today in terms of my own journey is I came from a place of having scoliosis. So, I was diagnosed with that probably in middle school and didn't realize that I kind of had chronic pain around it. I didn't know
Okay.
that, figured people just live that way. So, I had this chronic pain in my spine because my spine had a curvature in it.
Okay.
Um, and when I wanted to address that, I went to conventional medicine and essentially was trying to see how they could assist me. So I got X-rays. They found out what degree there was for the curvature in my spine, and then all they could really offer me was pain pills. And they said that surgery, it wasn't bad enough for surgery, and it wasn't bad enough for a back brace. So pretty much, here's some pain pills, and that's what we have for you. And with my father was a diesel mechanic. My grandfather was an electrician. So I've always had this built within me of wanting to understand how things work, and how to be able to fix problems that aren't, of things that aren't functioning properly. And so I think I took that into coming into connection with natural medicine. I started doing yoga, and my very first yoga experience was life altering, because I did my first yoga class kind of thinking like, oh, that's some weird thing, like it's kind of religious, but not, I don't know what this is, but I'm gonna try it. And then I found out it's stretching, right? Like it's stretching. And my first yoga experience when I left that class, well, I guess while in the class, I was doing these different stretches on the floor, and I had this epiphany within me, realizing that I could stretch much further on one side than I could on my other side. And
Oh.
that kept happening in different poses. And so within me, I was like, wow, like I literally have muscles that are not as nimble on one side than they are on the other. And as I'm stretching and doing this practice, I'm able to reach further. And these muscles are starting to let go and loosen. And it felt really good, right? Like felt really good to do this. And then when the class ended, The person I went with, we were driving, and all of a sudden, like we're like in downtown Santa Monica, and all of a sudden I just scream at the top of my lungs, like holler, right? Like, oh yeah, like I felt so good, and it just kind of came out of nowhere. And so that was my first experience of realizing that I had this personal ability to affect my physiology by something as simple as stretching. And so
Wow.
that really is what was the springboard that propelled me into wanting to learn as much as I could about all these other natural healing methods. And so that's when I started doing massage before I went into massage school. So just learning how to work
Okay.
on people's bodies by following my own hands, which was a suggestion from my friend who massaged people but had never been to massage school. She's like, just follow your hands. Your hands know what to do. And I'm like, yeah, that's weird. Okay, but I'll try. And I did. I just kind of like followed my hands and figured it out. And it was almost like what I had done in automotive technology, which was part of my training before that, was using my hands to understand and diagnose vehicles. And so I was kind of doing that with human bodies in a way, in a less mechanical way, but still more felt touch, felt sense, trusting that intuition in my body. And realizing that I could learn a lot from that. And people were saying that it felt good without me having any like logical training around it. So as I did that for a few years, then I moved into conventional shiatsu massage and learned that. Um, which that has Chinese medicine in it. And so essentially, I was pretty much obsessed with natural medicine. I wanted to learn as much as I could about it. Me, as myself, having a body, I could experiment with myself and use it, which I think is one of the most beautiful things. Obviously, you want to do it in a very specific way so you don't do things incorrectly or try things that don't work. But it's an ability to play with it. It's a medicine that's been here for as long as we as of humans have been on Earth. And so there's a lot of knowledge and wisdom in that. And then that brought me into psychology at Naropa. A lot of it is learning about yourself through. So psychology kind of has different methodologies of understanding, and what I liked about that school is it bridged Eastern and Western views of psychology. And so a lot of the Eastern views had meditation as part of that, as well as a lot of Buddhist philosophical understandings about the understanding of consciousness and how we as humans view our world, and then that relationship between the two of them, in this way where you're kind of a player in the game, and you get to start to play around and see what works and see what doesn't work for you and try different things on. And whereas the Western view is kind of more externalized, it's very about how someone else sees you. And so they both have their powers, they both have their faults. And so I liked being able to adapt to both of those. And then once I finished at school, I was training to become a naturopathic doctor. I essentially went back to community college to fulfill all of my science requirements, which was biology, algebra, four versions of chemistry. And I really came up against my fear of math. And so this work that I do helped me to transform those fears and integrate them so that I can make it through the coursework.
Hmm.
And I did. It was a very arduous journey. I'm glad I made it through. I made it all the way up to biochemistry, and that's when our world kind of shifted around this COVID era. And so I essentially finished biochemistry. I took 6 months off. I was ready to go to medical school for
Okay.
naturopathy out in Oregon. And then, the world kind of shut down. And so I kind of stepped back. And
Okay.
so to answer your question more succinctly, this is where it comes into, is I have all of this more than a decade of all this information of natural medicine, and through that time period of all the different things that I learned personally for myself and shared with others during that time, was what I came to the foundation that emotions are um, the main communication realm that we as humans are part of.
And this is just to to know that this is the emotional resolution.
Correct.
That's what it brought you. It brought you to be a practitioner in emotional resolution, and this is where we can find your practice in self infinite self dot com. This is where we can uh, have your service there. in emotional resolution. Is that right? Yeah. Okay.
Totally, yeah.
Just
So on my
wanted to
website,
know.
yeah, appreciate that. On my website, infinite-self.com, it'll tell you more about emotional resolution. Oftentimes, I speak about it more as being just a natural way that we interact, which is through emotions, and that it doesn't necessarily need to be some quote unquote technique that's doing this work. Because we are actually doing this all the time. We are
Yeah.
constantly self-regulating our emotions,
Yes.
whether we know it or not. And so the place that it becomes important and why EmRes or emotional resolution is an exact technique is because there's specific steps that we can do that we can apply to areas in our life and these emotions that keep coming back and we don't know why and we haven't resolved them yet. We haven't been able to regulate them yet. And so it's a pragmatic way of applying these to our body in areas that we see are no longer serving us, but on the undercurrent of that is we're constantly doing this emotional regulation. And so that's kind of why I've stepped back to this, is because I've seen it being a, a pivotal piece that impacts every other aspect of how we live. Because we are constantly being driven by these emotional triggers, whether we know it or not, and it's negatively impacting our life, or
Yes.
it's potentially not giving us the joy that we could have in our life. And so as we resolve these things, we gain more contentment and peace. We have more self-responsibility. We learn how to be self-sovereign. And then that necessarily will impact all these other aspects that I've learned along the way. So that's why I focus more on the emotions.
Great. I like the way you're talking about the self-sovereignty. This is amazing. And if people could apply this more in their life, they would be more free. Because, when you're free, you have more responsibility, but you are you, and you're doing what you have to do to stay in balance and to navigate this wonderful life. So came back from the little pause. We have a little technical problem, but everything's fine right now. So yes, we were talking about this the sovereignty, and you know what, Joy, it reminds me of a quote in Spider-Man: "With great power, there must also come great responsibility."
Most definitely.
So with this quote, you want to tell us how your work is really important those days in regard to what we were talking about, this situation we are in right now. And I know it's really important. I really understand it, but like to make sure that people are really, because it's not all the people who knows what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And it's okay, we have our own self um, um, helping us. I mean, I don't know how to say it. I'm French, so sometimes I don't have the real words, but everybody has his own way to heal and stuff like that. But in those days, we really need some, that's my point of view. We also need some other people sometimes to help us, like finding what is right for us inside, and especially in those days because we are bombarded with all of this information. It's all, we never know if is it right, is it wrong, is it like, and the people have a tendency to put themselves in one way, not the other way. Like, I mean, they separate themselves, and if you're not thinking like me, you're not with me. And and what I want to arrive to say, and for my question, is like those situations that we are in since 2 years now brings us to having problems sometimes with those emotions. And it's like a very big roller coaster right now. So what um, can you make like kind of a parallel of what we are living now, and then what could you bring for the world to help them in those days, especially because it's hardcore sometimes, but it will be for the best, of course. But that's it. That's the evolution of human race. So that's it.
Yeah, you hit a lot of good points there. So I think where we are today is that we've intentionally or not been trained to give our power away in believing that the quote unquote experts know everything, and therefore we should live by the rules that the experts provide. And so, like I said, we give away our power in only trusting and believing the experts. And although people that are experts have devoted their life to certain ways of knowing, they will know a lot about that thing, but they also don't know about the other things. And so experts honestly usually have blindfolders on where they zoom in and see one thing. And that can have its own power, but it can also miss out on the diversity of life, that there's many other variables and intricacies and dynamics that are in play that are connected to their expertise, but they're missing it because they think it's not relevant. And so we kind of assume that that we should go by the way in which the experts are saying that we should go. And although that's, you know, another grain of sand or another grain of salt in the beach of knowledge, it's not the entire beach. And so what I believe that this can transition us into is a lot of what I speak about is taking self-responsibility for our own emotions. Because when we can take responsibility of the way in which we feel, then we can actually gain a lot more internal power and internal knowing in how we should live our own life. I truly believe that most people in the world are good people. And there's external circumstances that are either incentivizing them to be bad people, whether it's our financial systems or our political systems, or that there's other situations within them, like we've talked about from the youngest years of their lives, these emotional triggers that are propelling them into these places of being a not good person. But I do truly believe that as people become self-responsible about the way in which they feel, and learn this methodology of this natural way that their body can self-heal these wounds from the past, these emotional triggers from the past, that naturally once those things begin to heal, then people are able to transition into this place of finding a new version of themselves and leveling up their own life. One analogy that I'm still working on, but that I think tries to encapsulate this, is that, well, first, one piece is that it's very, and I think you kind of mentioned this, it's very easy for us to see emotional triggers in someone else. So we see that someone in our environment, loved one or not, we can tell when they're emotionally triggered. Oftentimes we intentionally or not ruffle other people's feathers, and we know how to trigger other people, especially our loved ones. And so we can see this in other people, but sometimes it's very difficult to turn that mirror back on ourselves and notice when we ourselves are emotionally triggered. And so this is a world I envision is once people become more self-responsible of their own emotions and learn this technology that's built within our biology to self-regulate and self-heal our emotions, then we can be much better at learning to gently nudge other people when we notice their own emotional triggers that they might want to take self-responsibility for and learn how to heal, as well as be willing to hear that from other people when they notice we are emotionally triggered and potentially willing to heal that wound and self-regulate as well. So the analogy I like to use around this is almost as if we have this compass within us. We have this guide that's kind of directing us through our life as we go present moment by present moment.
Just to put
yeah,
parentheses, like to go with what you're saying right now, it's very important to be able to name our emotions, and that's hard. And we don't really hear it at school. We don't really learn this
yes,
in school. But I have a tool that I have been given by a friend of mine that I really love. And he gave me this wheel of emotion
oh nice,
wheel. So I just, like, as a little kind of a tool for people. Emotional wheels, it really will help you in that, what you were saying, to name the emotions and to know what range you are in right now and which range you want to go back, or it gives you a very good view on where you are, and to experiment, like where does it, where is it in my body, and you see the name, because the words is also very important, and how you
Completely.
feel.
And
So
I appreciate you saying that, because there's two sides to it. It's like one side, it's very helpful to have that conscious connection to what the label of the emotion is, because it helps us to build these ideas of like, okay, now I have a language that relates to the way in which I feel. And there's all of these different words that help me to make that bridge of connection between the language and the conscious understanding. But then it only does so much. And that's where I do things a bit differently, is it's almost like the iceberg. This is the tip of the iceberg, the labels that we name the emotions.
yes,
Really the 90% or more is really what's beneath that, which is the
I
physical
agree.
sensations. And so when any of us are experiencing an emotion, the way we know that we're angry, we're sad, we're horny, we're happy, the way that we know that is because we feel something within our body. And that
Yes,
something is a physical sensation. It's a tension or a movement, hot, cold, tingles. There's something that's happening within the body, and that is the emotion. Everything else is how we label it and judge it and control it. And so if we step aside from the labels and we simply go into the feeling that's there, that's actually what allows this ancient part of our brain, which is actually the most powerful computer within us, the subconscious mind, to connect to that feeling and allow it to naturally self-regulate. In the same way that when our skin gets cut, we don't tell it how to heal. It simply knows how to do it. It has the information within it to be able to heal. And that's what we do when we step into the subconscious sensory information of feeling and allow ourselves to just experience the feeling. That's what allows it to heal. And so, with the analogy that I was speaking with this compass, when we are going through life, the compass is showing us where to go, right? We're just being guided by our feelings. And all of a sudden, something in our environment will bring up an emotional trigger. And that emotional trigger is almost like this external magnet. It's this external force field that's now taking that compass and moving it off kilter. And so we follow that because we have no other ability to change it, because our biology is driven with that supercomputer to follow this external force field that's throwing us off course. But when we're able to notice that we've just come off course and we can go into those physical sensations of that emotion that I was speaking about, what it does is it self-regulates that external force field, and all of a sudden it brings us back to where we need to go,
do
which
you
is
have
that.
an example in your life, or in clients that came to see you, to show us what you're really saying right now, like in like an example, like very tangible example, that the person did this, and
Yeah, totally.
could
So
be very.
I'll start with myself. So I was doing this work already with clients, and I guess it goes both at the same time. I was doing this work already with clients, doing emotional resolution, and working with clients that had phobias. So there was phobias of being over a bridge, phobias of being near deep water, and phobias of flying on an airplane. And so each of these clients were able to do this methodology I'm talking about and be able to resolve in 60 minutes or less this phobia that they've had for all their life. So they would go into this environment, say the example is fear of flying on a plane. And this client specifically was able to resolve that phobia of being on a plane. And the funny thing about it is the situation she brought to our session was actually her driving her friend to the airport. So her body driving her friend to the airport,
Yes,
her knowing she's not going on a plane, her body came up with this fear and felt this phobia simply by being at the airport to drop her friend off.
was
And so we
powerful.
used that situation in a session to be able to resolve that phobia. And then later on, she was able to go on a plane without having to do all the things she needed to do previously, which was taking a bunch of medications, drinking alcohol, and getting inebriated in order to be on a plane without being completely freaked out. And so I saw these clients being able to self heal these phobias, which in conventional medicine are seen as incurable. And being like, wow, that's really cool. But like, it didn't actually sit with me because it wasn't my own experience. And then I had for this more personally is at my undergrad school in Europa, they did a thing called Healers Day. So it was a day where students could share their healing modality with the community. And as you saw, I have massage. I was like, oh, I'll do a massage. That was my first thing. But there was like 3 or 4 other massage therapists. I was like, well, I don't want to do the same thing. What else could I do? And I was like, oh, how about EmRes? And so in my mind, I'm like, yeah, this is totally cool. I'm happy to share this. But then what I realized is 15 minutes before I was supposed to give the talk, my body just started having all of this tension and anxiety, and I was kind of internally freaking out. And so this is the difference between the conscious mind, which was like, yes, I want to do this, and the subconscious mind, which is actually much more powerful, that
What if, what
was,
if, what if?
yeah, it was freaked out by the situation. It was bringing up these old emotional, physical sensation patterns of anxiety and telling me I was in danger, essentially. So on the biological level, my body felt as if it was in danger. And so right 15 minutes before that, I felt this come up and I'm like, okay, I need to go to the restroom. So I went to the restroom. And then as I was coming back to wash my hands, it hit me. I was like, I'm experiencing anxiety right now. I'm about to talk about EmRes. Let's do this. So I closed my eyes. I felt my physical sensations. I don't exactly remember what the sensations were,
And you
which is
see
kind of,
what, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
yeah,
EmRes, what is EmRes again?
emotional resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so EmRes is a short version of emotional resolution, which in the caveat is our body's natural ability to be able to self-regulate emotions.
Okay.
And so all I had to do was close my eyes, notice that my body was experiencing physical sensations. I found what those were. Maybe it was an increased heart rate, tension in my shoulders, and then probably like a pit in my stomach or something. And then I simply surrendered, allowed those things to be as they were. They started to shift and move. And then all of a sudden, in 45 seconds or less, they calmed down and there was nothing. And so from that moment forward, I went into the presentation in a new way that I never had been able to do before. My previous self in presentations would speak super, super fast. I would lose my track of thought. I wasn't able to be present. I wanted it to be over. And I wasn't really conscious and aware as the presentations were occurring. And then after I had resolved this pattern in that situation, when I actually did the EmRes presentation to this small amount of people, I felt present. I was able to be there. I was able to look at people. I was able to think about their questions, allow them to ask the question, allow myself to think and to respond. And so it was me self-analyzing and seeing like, oh wow, that was different, but I'm not sure what. And then as time went on, I said yes to things that I wouldn't normally say yes to. Like I was on a podcast for Naropa. I did a different online interview for Naropa. And these were things that I wouldn't have said yes to before. I actually was a student group leader for a student group at Naropa. So I was putting myself in these places and situations that I used to be completely scared and fearful of, and I wouldn't have ever said yes to. And what I found is that I was saying yes to it without even thinking about it because I was passionate about the topic and it didn't matter of how scared I was or not because that feeling was no longer there. And that's where you find true resolution and healing is that these things that used to make us, our body used to think it was in danger, you're now saying, I'm willing to feel this.
Yes.
And then it feels it completely. And then now those same situations, you're no longer in danger. Your body sees it as an everyday situation like anything else.
It's like you're telling to your body, I feel you, I understand you, and I love you the way you are. Like, thank you for telling me those things that now I have the will in my hand. Come with me, you know? It's a little bit like this, right?
Exactly.
I really love how you're telling us and the viewers your experience I mean, you are experiencing what you are doing, and this I really I completely love it. I like it. I love it. I love this about you because it's, for me, when you're doing something to help others and you don't know how to apply it in your life, or you don't want to talk about it,
Yeah.
it tells me something. But when I see you, Joy, like talking about this and like sharing to us what you experience in your life, as for me, when I want to go see a practitioner, I would prefer going to see someone that is experimenting what he's telling, So for that, I'm saying thank you, and because I think that a lot of a lot of people want this, because that's what we want. We want some people to help us, not taking our power, like not taking our power away, but giving us tools that we can apply like in everyday life. And so that's what you are doing, and it works. And it's priceless for me. It's like,
Yes.
wow. It's what we call abundance in every way, because it's this learning process brings you so many things after, because you were able to do what you couldn't do before. So that brings more and more and more, and it puts you in life, and it makes you wants to feel more, right? Because now you're in kind of a control of your vehicle or your temple, your body.
Exactly.
So I really like it. I really, really do. So I think I'm gonna have a session one day. I don't know when, but soon.
I'd be happy to share it with you. And that's kind of why I say that the sovereignty is our birthright and self-healing is our natural capacity, because I'm assisting people in what they already do, but teaching them how to apply it in areas of their life that maybe have been troubling them for a while. And through that story that I just shared, essentially, you and I here together on this is proof of it's the proof is in the pudding, right? Like this is the pudding right here, that I would never have allowed myself to be in this situation because I'm here in the limelight as the expert, the quote unquote expert on this topic. And also, this is recorded. This is going to be live elsewhere where anybody in the world can see it that happens to come across it. That can bring up a lot of fear for many people. And it used to be that way for me. We're like, no, I don't want to do that. All these judgments, self judgments, what are people going to think about me? There's all these like unknowns and uncertainties around it. But because I've experienced it in the present moment when I did and had the tool within me to be conscious and go, oh, okay, let's feel this. My body naturally did that and go, it doesn't matter what other people think. If I find the right person that this is able to help, that's what I'm here for. Allow them to find the
Yeah,
power within themselves because it's already there. We just got to uncover it and then come together as a community.
I love it so much. And it gives, and I really relate to you with the anxiety part and everything, because I'm a singer, and I don't do a lot of shows those days. I've stopped for a little while, but I'm scratching the guitar sometimes, and I put videos on just for fun like this, But I couldn't do it even like 2 years ago. That was a really big process
Awesome.
for me. Same thing for you, because like, oh my God, what would they tell about me, and if I make a wrong, a mistake, or and stuff like that. But now, uh, when we allow ourselves to be just to be like this and to show to the world, it we want to help the world. I want to help the world. You want to help the world. Everybody has this inside anyways, they want to help. They are here not for nothing. They're here to do something, to grow, but to help maybe other people to grow too. But so that gives us more freedom, because we allow ourselves to be just to be. So
Yes.
that's it. So just I would really like to talk to you for 3 hours. And I'm sure that the viewers would like to hear from you another time we will do that another time if you want. But
Yeah, I
for
would love to do
now,
that.
yes,
Can I
because
say on what you just said earlier there, because I want to highlight that, is
yes,
I think it's super important that you were speaking about playing the guitar, and you went from a place of not wanting to share that with the world, or in only in very specific situations, and then you
yes,
transition to the point of doing what you consciously wanted to do, which was share it in the world on YouTube or this new way. And so that experience right there is exactly what we're talking about, of you naturally self-regulating these difficult emotions within you in whatever way that that was. And so that's what this undercurrent is this is our birthright. This is our natural ability to emotionally self-regulate, and we're always doing this. My piece is, can we do it more efficiently? Can we apply it into places that we see and speed up our essentially lessen our suffering and
yes,
speed up our healing, so that we can tap into what is the mechanics and the way that our biology has figured out how to emotionally regulate, and then how can we consciously apply that into places that we see are no longer serving us, instead of having to wait 5, 10, 20 years for this emotional regulation process to happen.
hello, it's
Yeah,
me.
we can hit it and then we can do it. But what I want to highlight is that you did this process, and all of our viewers do this process already. It's about how do we kind of start to tap in and do it a little more quickly so that we can find more of them and uncover more. Because really what's underneath this fear that we have is our power. It's like this doorway. If we keep closing it because we have the fear, and then we're like, oh, okay, actually let's heal that. And then now we have more power available, more sovereignty available, more connection to our heart, more connection to the people around us.
Yes, and stop those reactions, going away because they're, because we're afraid, or avoiding, or, so because this problem is not the situation, it's inside. So when we know how to deal with it, um, uh, when with the emotional resolution, it's helping us to apply this in like in all our daily life, and everywhere more rapidly, plus
Yeah.
plus rapidement en français.
One day, I hope.
Yeah. So, well, the next interview, Joey, will be in French. You know that?
I'm gonna start studying now.
So, just before we say goodbye, um, do you want to leave a message to the world? Do you have something you want to say, whether if it's personal or another subject, or something you do, other things you're doing, or whatever? Take your time. Like, just talk about what do you want to say, or a message for the world, or your last uh, time to shine your light.
Thank you. That's a great question. I think it's important for us to realize that each of us is a self-explorer, that we have this ability within us to choose to explore the inner workings of ourselves. For me personally, it feels like a mission. It may not be like that for everybody, but it seems that there's something special that our civilization, our of being human, that's kind of what we've done naturally, is to explore oneself unto ourselves, as well as exploring ourselves to the connection to others. And how do we enhance ourselves, not as us being broken or something that needs to be fixed, but something that we can enhance ourselves to level up our consciousness and our lives and our bodies and our own health, so that we can become better and better versions of ourselves and expand our ability to have more contentment and peace in our life. And that is a foundation, which is what this work is as we resolve these emotional triggers from the past, we get more contentment and peace, because that is actually our natural state of living as a human, is having this foundation of peace in our life. And as we have more contentment and peace in our life, it allows us to experience more positive emotions and be in them, and experience more of them, and therefore gain more in our lives. So that's really what my work is to work with people who are wanting to explore themselves and wanting to start to integrate and harmonize this emotional baggage, these emotional wounds from the past that no longer serve them, and then to see where they could potentially go in the future because of that. So one of the things I like to say is I help people to become best friends with their bodies, because our bodies are here with this ancient wisdom, this language, which is physical sensations that our culture hasn't necessarily taught us how to understand. And so that's what my work is how do we better understand this language, better be in congruence with this language, and allow it to guide our lives. In the same way I was speaking about that compass earlier, is our body is actually constantly feeding us information through physical sensations, but they're nonverbal. So we often don't listen to them or we shove them away and it doesn't actually help us. And so if we learn to see our body as this vehicle that we don't necessarily have a owner's manual to, in the same way our automobiles are, we have an owner's manual to our automobile, we don't really have one to our body. And so the
Mhm.
other piece to that is that we all are very individualized in the way in which our emotions are experienced through these physical sensations. So even though we might call it anxiety on both sides, like we spoke about earlier, I guarantee your anxiety feels very different in your body than my anxiety feels in my body. And so
Yes.
because of that, we have this unique fingerprint of emotions, physical sensations in our body that are different for each of us. And so it's not my job to tell you what that is. My job is to help you get connected to that so that you can begin to understand for yourself what that means to you. And then when you have that, you have this relationship with your body in a new way where it is your best friend. You always have that connection. No matter who changes in your external environment with your relationships, you always have connection with yourself. And that for me is what emotional brilliance is. That's what emotional sovereignty is, because now you have that connection with yourself. You have the tools to be able to make it through any emotional trigger, as well as to better savor the positive emotions of life that usually we just pass over.
Right.
So like sometimes with the food, right? Like you get a really good food that's, you haven't had since last season, a ripe strawberry for the first time. We naturally just close our eyes and then savor the feeling of what that is without any external visualization. It's just here. We
Mhm.
absorb that as much as we can to really get the feeling of it. And that's what I want us to do with negative emotions and positive emotions, because when we close our eyes and we allow ourselves to experience it, just surrendering to that experience of living, that's what naturally allows our body to integrate this nonverbal ancient language. And that's what gives us the ability to better move through our life in a new way and literally change our future by healing our past in the present.
Yeah. Oh my God. This is amazing. We want to be your next customer.
Thank you. And so for those who do want to connect with me, my website is infinite-self.com. That's INFINITE and then Natalie will put it on the links as well. I do 30-minute consultations because this is individualized. So it's a
Okay.
place for us to connect to see if it's a good relationship, because that's really what it's all about. It's not really the practice, it's more about the practitioner and the client relationship. And so to see if we're a good fit, I'm happy to provide that time so we can see if this is going to be valuable to you. So I'd love for you to reach out. If you're a person that likes more information, I do a podcast. It's on Spotify and Anchor. Holistic emotional healing, I believe is what it's called. It's kind of new, so I don't have the name in my mind, but I can have her post that as well. And have these conversations. And for the Glorious and Free group on Telegram, currently we meet every Tuesday at 12 Eastern. And we do an open discussion. Sometimes I'll have presentations that I provided, but a lot of times it's open discussion on the topic of emotional healing, because as community members bring their own experience to the group, for me, that's where true healing happens, is in discussion about these emotions and being able to hear other people's perspectives on what's happening, and to come into a group setting where we can all be under the same understanding of connecting with our hearts and allowing our bodies to heal whatever difficulties are happening.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for all the tips you gave us and for your experience that you shared to us. And for the viewers, yes, I will put all the links below the video for you guys. Well, I wish you all a very good day or a night wherever you are in this beautiful world, Earth, called Earth. So I see you next time. And yes, here we go. It's the close of the show. I love you, everyone there. And bye-bye to the glorious and free members too. And see you next time. I don't know when, but next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.